Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McCusick, and we're back to discuss the matchups for the Ravens offense versus the Lions defense on that Monday Night Football slugfest coming up. Here to join me, as always, to do that is Frazer Tafar. Frazer, how you doing?
Doing good, Ken. Glad to be back on for the offensive show. Had an amazing defensive show. Talked about a lot what we're going to be doing against the star power that Detroit has with Laporta, Amon-Ra, and Jamison Williams. Seeing
Gibbs.
how and Gibbs. I mean, it's the Montgomery. I mean, the list goes on. So looking to see what we can do against those guys and see if we can get some more interior pass rush and continue the success we had against Flacco last week.
Yeah, good stuff on that, and some ways in which the Ravens might be able to free up their dynamic duo on the inside, the Batman and Robin that is Travis Jones and Nnamdi Madubuike. And that is, by the way, I would order Batman and Robin in that group. just to let you know. I mean, I think Jones is absolutely critical to be re-signed. And we talked a little bit about the defensive backs holding their own against the wide receivers and tight ends, and how the Ravens might line up differently than they have in the past. Is this the first game we actually see some traveling because Jamison Williams is averaging almost 15 yards per target this year on his first 9 targets? Small sample size, but he's still been extremely effective.
Yep. So moving on to the offense for this week, I have first matchup is the tight ends versus the safeties in this matchup. Specifically, I'm looking for Mark Andrews to get back in the swing of things. He's been a crucial aspect in the run game, especially against the Bills, where we had almost over 200 yards rushing ball. Last week he had the missed first down and then the drop touchdown. Um, Kind of tough for him, but looking for him to have a successful day, uh, specifically against some of their safeties like Branch and Joseph. They're physical guys, but I don't think they can keep up. Not necessarily with the speed, but just the way that Andrews can sell his routes. He's able to come up on the crossers, um, on the corner routes. He's able to make his move and get the guy going the other way. We need him to get back into this offense, even though we've been successful putting up over 70 points in the last 2 games. I still think if we're able to get him back incorporated in the middle of the field, then that just poses more problems for the defenses moving forward.
Well, the Ravens offense has been a complete barbell of results. They've had a lot of negative plays and they've had a lot of drives stall out because of those plays and some incomplete passes that have gone with them. Although Lamar's been really good with the deep ball. This defense, its offense, is basically performed in an unsustainable way. They need to sustain more drives in order to
Yes.
maintain their points per drive. Remarkable 336. To put that number in perspective. They don't even lead the league in points per drive. The Colts are ahead of them. Of all teams, the Colts are ahead of them.
They haven't put
But
in all year.
yeah, but they're at 336 per drive, and the only team in the history of the National Football League which was ever better was the 2007 New England
Patriots.
Patriots, who were at
Yep.
337 per drive, and after that it drops off to the about 320 or 318 is the next highest, and 306, 308. What the Ravens were in 2019 is the best. I think it's 308 is the best Ravens team of all time. So I would love it if the Ravens offense could stay north of 3 for the entire year. That would be a huge win. But in order to do so, they've got to get the tight ends back, and the offensive line has got to play a lot better. They're not going to do it with kind of yards before contact that they've had so
Yes.
far. They need to get more level 2 first contact opportunities for Derrick Henry, for Keaton Mitchell. Get more opportunities, get more threatening opportunities, and threaten more misdirection. And I think the misdirection is a big component you're going to hear in pretty much every point I make today of a thing they need to do against the Detroit Lions. The inside linebackers are a big strength of theirs, and to get the tight ends really free over the middle of the field or wherever you want to use them. The Detroit Lions are a team that says, I'll go man on you
Yes.
versus that tight end with a linebacker, not with a safety, not with your third corner against a flex guy. They'll do it with one of their 2 outside off-ball linebackers. They play a 4-3, so they have 3 off-ball linebackers.
Yep.
But their outside guys, frequently are covering a tight end.
And I'm hesitant to say if like he plays on Monday. The report comes out today at practice to see if he's on the field. But if he's able to go, that's even more of a threat over the middle of the field because linebackers are not keeping up with Isaiah likely more often than not. Um, and then honestly, it's been quiet for Kohler, but we could see him emerge as well. I just think we've seen a lot of action from the wide receiver position that it's going to be a focal point this week for the Detroit Lions to take that away.
Oh,
Or yeah,
good. I mean,
yeah,
if their safeties are concerned about the wide receivers, I think I'm in favor of that. There
yep,
is nobody in this league right now who can cover Zay Flowers on a crossing route. So the Lions will probably be looking, advanced scouting this game and saying we have to find a way to stop number 4. And if we, that may involve sacrificing some of the integrity of any kind of cover 2 shell we want to run
yes,
or doing that. But we have to try robber concepts to try and do that. And that's why I think I'll go to my first item here, which gets into this directly. I mean, the Ravens need to figure out, and Lamar specifically needs to figure out the half field reads very quickly. He needs to be able to figure out where the safety on that side is on that play. Remember the old wristband that Tom Brady used to wear, find 20 on every play? Well, the best 2 Detroit defenders, and they've got talent at all 3 levels, but the best 2 defenders they have are Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, who had 9 interceptions last year. Those are the best they've got. They have to figure out where those guys are and keep them from impacting the game in the way they might. Jackson needs to be very, very careful with any kind of overthrow or tipped ball this week. So that means be careful at the line of scrimmage to make sure that he can see a passing lane or can alter his arm angle appropriately, but cannot have a high tip ball. The tip ball that they had at the line of scrimmage by I think it was Shelby Harris this last week who tipped one up in the air. That
yep.
probably is an interception against the Detroit Lions. You can't have that. You can't have any of the Andrews throw it too high. He goes up for it. It gets tipped because one of those Detroit safeties is going to be lurking in a loose bracket. He's going to take that ball away. So I'm very concerned that Lamar understands where those safeties are on every play. There, by
And
the way, the line. Go ahead.
yeah, and I'm also hoping that because it's a night game, Lamar is a little more settled in. Because last week he was a lot amped up. I don't know if it was the IV that he took before the game or whatever, but he was some of his balls were high, overthrows to Zay, and then as the game progressed, he started to lock in and get more better throws. But I'm hoping he's able to come out hot to your point, because if he doesn't and he continues to come out the gate slow with overthrows, underthrows, then he will probably be paying in the beginning of the game.
Yeah. I mean, the Lions, as even with Hutchinson now, don't present an outstanding 4-man pass rush. And
Yep.
they know it, and they will try and send an extra man, but they really don't present that. And the Ravens obviously pay a lot of attention to Hutchinson. But if this is a game where Lamar can go in the
It's
pocket,
gonna be over.
yeah, it's going to be very hard for the Lions safeties to have the kind of impact on the game that they would otherwise have. So I look forward to that.
Yep. Moving on to my next point, I have the other side of the ball. Ravens looking to establish the inside run versus the Detroit Lions front seven. Um, Terrible showing last week. Uh, the Browns sold out to stop the run, and then the Ravens said, "Okay, then you're just gonna have to stop the pass," and they couldn't. So this week, I'm hoping we could have a little more balance. Um, if it's like beating a dead horse, then we have to pivot very fast. But I would love to see us continue to run inside zone, power. I think that we can really get up on a guy like DJ Reader and Marcus Davenport and make an impact. I'm looking for bounce back game for Linderbaum. He really got manhandled last week. Uh, and what was his grade that you had him at?
He had a D- for the game, but he gave him a lot of pressure. PFF had him for, well, certainly an F as a pass block. He's like a 26 grade from PFF. He was bad. I mean, there's no two ways
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
So I'm looking for a bounce back game for an offensive line and really opening up holes for Derrick Henry and make having at least some of the success that we had week 1 against Buffalo. Because if we're going to have any kind of resemblance to that, then the offense should have another 40 point performance.
I don't know if I'm ready to predict that. I mean, it's great if it happens, but I don't know if I'm ready to predict it. Yeah, I mean, I want to see
I
the
mean,
Ravens obviously back to running the ball.
yep.
And I if the Ravens need to run the ball in whatever way works for them, can work for them without Ricard and all the tight ends healthy. So it doesn't look like Ricard's going to be back. The language was worse for him, if I'm reading between the lines with Harbaugh. He's
Yep.
trying not to give away anything, but the first thing he said, he just will not talk about likely, but I think everybody's hopeful that it might be this week. With Ricard, he said it took longer than we originally expected. Well, what should probably happen if we're in this position is for Ricard to be put on IR and Lucas Scott to be activated to the 53, because right now they're burning through the activations on ZMP. He already has only one left. He has only this week left if they don't raise him to the 53. So at some point, you got to say, okay, we're going to be without Ricard for 4 weeks, and he's got to go on IR. I don't think they have the same rules for retroactivity in football that they had in baseball, but I used to know that for sure. I've just kind of forgotten whether or not they allow that to occur. So if they put him on IR now, it means he's out until week 6.
Mhm.
Through week 6. And
So
if that's
back 7. If
yeah,
okay.
that would be very difficult. But if they allow the retroactivity, it would still be only through week 5. And in baseball, you're allowed to make it retroactive to the day after the last game he played. So that's a big difference between the two sports. But the IR rules are tight because they are subject to a lot of abuse, and frankly, the Ravens are one of the teams that knows how to
Yeah.
manipulate him as well as anybody.
No, we love using the IR stash a lot.
Yeah.
So we can't really complain too much.
All right. So you talked about the run game a little bit. I think they need to find a way to beat the inside linebackers. So this is a related point. And I'm not picky about whether they do it run, pass, Jackson scrambles, whatever it might be. But those guys are a lot of the strength of the defense after the safeties. So Anzalone, Campbell, and the third guy is Derek Barnes. By the way, Anzalone and Campbell played every single snap so far. Barnes has been off the field for 12 snaps. So here's what that means. That means when teams like the Packers and the Bears have presented the Lions with 11 personnel, they've stayed in their base 4-3 defense. Their base 4-3 defense. Now, that may not seem ridiculous to you people, but that forces
And that's tough.
either a safety or an inside linebacker to be on that slot receiver. And I don't care whether that's a flex tight end in 12, who's really more of a receiving type like we would have with Andrews or likely in that spot, or whether it's an actual burner like it wouldn't be Williams or Amon Ra. It might be Amon Ra actually in the slot if it were the Lions, but if it were the Packers or whoever, they've got other players who present challenges to cover, and the Lions have just thumbed their nose at it and said we're keeping our base 4-3 on the field, try and beat us. And the Packers could do it, and the Bears maybe could do it a little bit too, but they couldn't put it together to the tune of 52 points, so they didn't. They don't have an option. The Ravens, if the Lions want to stay heavy the whole game, the Ravens need to make them pay. And there's 2 ways I think that'll happen. One is if they can do what they can in the run game. So you really covered that well, I thought. The other thing is any kind of extension of play is going to be very bad for this Lions team.
Yes.
You can't continue to cover when you're as big as those guys are, and I think that provides an opportunity for this team.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of zone from Detroit. I think they're not going to be able to match up with Zay Flowers in the slot with a linebacker. So they're going to have to figure it out pretty soon. Do you have the numbers on their nickel and dime snaps?
I don't have like the results of the play
Yeah, the
numbers.
percentages
Uh,
breakdown.
I do not have that, but I can tell you this: the third inside, I'm sorry, the third off-ball linebacker played all but 12 of the snaps. So they
Okay.
basically they
Mhm.
really never go to dime. They almost never go to nickel. They're almost always in base. So this is a weird team. The Ravens won't have many of the teams they'll face like this. Actually, there might not be another team in the entire NFL who's really like this. And it presents certainly an opportunity for the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of 3 wide receiver sets coming again this week, just like we had against the Browns. I think they're going to try
Yeah,
and exploit and have a lot of different sets. I think we could see another who's this guy touchdown game.
yeah,
Tez Walker, Tylen Wallace. Obviously, we know Hopkins. He's going to have some miraculous play. at some point in the game. But I think we're gonna probably use Zay as a decoy as much as possible. I mean, obviously, if he's coming across the middle of the field wide open, going across or trying to just go right past those linebackers up the seam and see if Joseph or Branch could keep up with him. Um, I mean, it's a lot of different things that we can do, but continuing to be sound with our attack is the goal. I think we can't be out of control,
I,
and Lamar's really taking control of the offense.
It'd be my hope that they won't change the usage of Zay Flowers from the first 2 weeks. They've gotten away from having him run a lot of the gadget plays.
Mm,
You've got Keaton Mitchell is going to be active this week, I assume. Ali was concussed, or at least I believe he was. He was in the concussion protocol, so we'll see if he practices today. I think it's very unlikely that he would play this week. I think this is the game you bring Keaton Mitchell back. In a lot of ways, I think they held back on a lot of the things that they could do offensively in the first couple of weeks, particularly against the Browns. Where you can't
yes.
get much more vanilla than what they did defensively and offensively versus the Browns. And I think they held back because of this Lions game was coming up, and they knew it would be a big challenge. And then right after that, guess what? It's the Kansas City Chiefs on the road, and that'll be a quite a challenge for this team. But it's one that I think, based on how the Chiefs have played so far and how the Ravens have played so far, the Ravens should be up for.
Yep. And that's the part that I love about football is the mental aspect of the game. Because yes, we were vanilla last week, but this week we want to bring our best foot forward, but we also want to be conscious of what we're going to be doing against Kansas City and maybe showing tendencies that Kansas City would pick up on. And then our game planning for KC week is going to be building on those tendencies and bringing counters to that. So that's why I love the game so much, because there's so many different things you could do, so little that so little tweaks that you can make to your alignments, just like the Tylan Wallace touchdown. I mean, same motion, same play, just different result.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. I love
Yeah,
it.
he's a it was great the way they were able to incorporate other weapons in there, and yet this was a game finally where you see all the Ravens stuff where people complain about why on earth don't they have our 1 and 2 receivers on the field every single play. Well, this is why they can
Yeah.
do a lot of things, and they're, first of all, they're not just one dimensional. They can beat a guy on a corner route and also be an extended play option in the case of Walker. Wallace made a couple great blocks in the game. He
Yes.
recovered the fumble by Henry. You want to know a reason why he's on the field? Well, how about that?
Same
So
play
it's,
too.
yeah,
He made the block and he made the
yeah,
fumble recovery, which is I love Tylan Wallace. He's a good guy.
and he had a block and a first down catch on the very first series of downs for the Ravens
Yep.
in the game. So yeah, I
On
do.
Miles Garrett of all people. Chip on Miles Garrett and then getting the first down.
Um, I did want to say that I think this is an important game for misdirection for the Ravens, and I think it's very important that they get Keaton Mitchell back on the field for this. We haven't seen any pony so far. Actually, we might have seen it a couple times versus Buffalo. We did.
Yeah,
So
Ali in the backfield.
yeah, yeah. But this is a game where Keaton Mitchell could line up all over, and the Lions have already developed an awareness for who Keaton Mitchell is, even from a very brief interaction in 2023. They didn't get the Keaton Mitchell the Seahawks got, but they got a couple of looks at him in that game. And I'm hoping this is a game where we see, I'd like to see a dozen snaps from Keaton Mitchell, which is probably too many. But right now I'm at a point where if you really think that special teams is the problem, and Keaton Mitchell is hurting you, I give Keaton Mitchell half of Justice Hill's role, and let Hill take over more special teams responsibilities where he's outstanding.
Yep.
But Mitchell he was the most dangerous looking player in camp, and I want to. They've got to leverage that against these next two opponents. It's just too important.
Yeah, and I think John does have kind of a point because when he is in the game, you're kind of thinking, okay, what are they going to do with the back? Because they, I mean, because we do use him on a lot of different gadget stuff. Like if he's
Yeah.
coming in the game, we're going to use him on a screen or a backside throw. Like,
Okay.
I don't know.
Everybody's probably within range of my voice knows what's coming next on the bingo card. But if they know that Keaton Mitchell is getting the freaking football, then they should be able to do a lot of things with that knowledge. I'll use in air quotes there. It's just if that's what all superstars are. Derrick
Right.
Henry, Zay Flowers,
You're
Lamar
right.
Jackson. I mean, hey, this might be a play where Lamar Jackson has the ball in his hands. Like, that's everybody. But this might be a play where they want to hand it off to Derrick Henry. How are we going to defend that? And you get nervous about it. Well, you can't. You have to play football, and that's the same thing with Keaton Mitchell. And I don't doubt for a second that if Keaton Mitchell's in there and he lines up as a flanker instead of in the backfield and a pony, everybody's going to be pointing at him. Great. Right. Use that. Right. Give him the ball a third of the time, as typical poker rules would say, and then you'll have a winner. So I thought it was of all the ththings that Harbaugh has said over the years, that was up there with the dumbest in terms of things that didn't make sense to me. And generally, I'm a big advocate. I like Harbaugh, and I think he's done a great job. I'm not interested at all in changing coaches while there's a pitchfork and torches mob outside the castle after that 1-point loss to Buffalo on the road. Right. You can paint that two different ways. And if you're really upset about it, they blew a big lead, they did this, they did that. Blah, 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 blah. We can't have losses like that. It's been too many times. And yeah, you're grabbing your gear and your pitchfork and your torch, and you're heading out to the castle with the other crazies. But I say they lost a 1-point game to Buffalo on the road where they had about a 53% chance to win at the beginning. Yep, that percentage went up. It was over 90% in the fourth quarter, and that's really unfortunate. But when you go back to basics, they lost a very important game. It's extremely frustrating in terms of the AFC seedings and whatnot, but it just was not the kind of loss that you rip out your own heart and rip down the walls to the studs to start.
It's week one.
Yeah.
It's week one, guys. It's okay.
Frazer, always a great pleasure doing this show with you. Tell folks where they can find you online.
You guys can reach me at Twitter /X at F_Rave8. That's F_RAVE8.
All right. It'll be a one last thing to look forward to on Monday. So give that a listen to on game day. But we want to thank you for all the very loyal listening. If you want to do something nice for the show, we don't ask for people for money, at least not yet on a Patreon or anything. So a 5-star 50-word review would be great. And also if you could just show one other fan this podcast, either by taking them to the website, helping them on their phone find it, and that'd be great. We really appreciate that. For Frazer Tafar, this is Ken McCusick, and we'll talk to you next week on Matchups.